On this episode of Locked On Angels, I don't know about you, but our favorite team is feeling 500, John. A sweep of the Boston Red Sox puts the Halos at 500 for just the second time this season. They finally got there. Now, don't mess this up. We've got takeaways from yesterday's game, and we're going to share them with you today. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our fourth season as a host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, every single weekday, however you want to slice it. On today's show, Kikuchi is doing something different now on the mound, and he's hoping it's going to help him in one particular area. We'll share what that is in segment 2, and why is Reid Detmers so different now? He shared what has changed. We'll tell you about that in segment 3. But first, we've got our takeaways from game 3, where the Angels completed the sweep, and it was a 5-2 victory over the Red Sox. Boy, it feels good to beat the Red Sox. I mean, I know that they're kind of middling like the Angels are, and we're not so different, you and I, when it comes to the Red Sox this year and the Angels this year. Man, it feels good to beat them. Mike, let's get to takeaway number 1.
Yeah, Zach Neto's presence was immediately missed in this game in the top of the first. Kikuchi got a strikeout, then Jarren Duran reached on an error that just ate up Scott Kingery at shortstop, and it caused Kikuchi to throw some extra pitches, and then there was a botched third strike call from the umpire. Darno really didn't frame the pitch very well, but it was a strike, and even the broadcasters said it was a strike. In fact, I've heard Gooby in the last couple of weeks more often than not say, that's a strike. That's all over the zone, right? And it extended the inning, and then Abreu walked, 2 unearned runs came around to score on a base hit by Trevor Story. 31 pitches total for Kikuchi in the top of the first. So it all kind of started with that error by Scott Kingery. Now, good news, Neto did get an MRI. It revealed no structural damage, so he's just going to be day-to-day. He said it was a sigh of relief. He was so relieved to get that information. He was off on Wednesday. He'll have an off day today, and the Nationals are coming to town this weekend. So I think we'll probably see him on Friday. I think it would be wise to put him in on Friday. And John, this is why Zach Neto has to play last Sunday. Yeah. Because if you have a healthy Zach Neto, then you need to have him in that lineup, especially against the Houston Astros, who is in your division, who you need to beat. And so I just hate those decisions, right? Like, it feels like sometimes we're just waving the white flag. Listen, this weekend would have been a great weekend to give Neto Sunday off against the Nationals, right? But not against the Astros. You want your best team at full capacity playing against them, because what the Angels did against the Red Sox is something that they can do to any team. They scored a lot of runs. They pitched really well. And we felt Zach Neto's absence in this game immediately in the top of the first.
I had a good laugh on Twitter because about an hour after that error at shortstop, Kyron Paris's dad tweeted out like a short highlight reel of Kyron Paris making plays in the infield and at shortstop. I thought that was pretty great. I said, I see what you did there, Mr. Paris. And he did the shh emoji with some laughing emoji. Mike, takeaway number 2, Jo Adell joins some elite Angels company. He hit his 10th home run in the month of June to make it 2-1. And then Travis d'Arnaud followed that with a solo homer of his own to tie it. So they go back to back there. Is that our new Trout Pujols combination right there? Adell and Travis d'Arnaud in the back to back in the lineup. Is that what we're doing? So Adell has 17 home runs on the year, but the fact that he has 10 in the month of June makes him the 6th player in Angels history to have a season with 10-plus home runs in June, joining Tim Salmon, you heard of him, Garrett Anderson, Albert Pujols, Shohei Ohtani, who actually did it twice, and then Mike Trout also did it. And it was fantastic to see because, again, it cut into the lead, and then d'Arnaud followed that up with his own solo home run, as I mentioned. And takeaway number 3 was that it was the Jo and Travis d'Arnaud show. No show? No, they showed up. But we mentioned that Adell got the scoring started. Travis d'Arnaud followed that. But then in the 5th, with 2 on and 2 out, Jo Adell singles in Christian Moore from second. That takes the lead. d'Arnaud singles in Trout from second. That made it 4-2. So 2 innings in a row for those two, giving the Angels all of their runs to that point. Then in the 6th inning, Trout singled the other way to make it 5-2. So that was awesome to see. Awesome to see Jo Adell join that elite company. There was a great tweet that said, "This is John doing snow angels in a pile of cash because he's Jo Adell checks." And I accept that. I received that because I haven't given up on Jo Adell, and everybody who watches this show knows that I haven't given up on Jo Adell, and I think it's starting to pay off, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the big question though will be, can he sustain this? Now last year, remember,
shut up. The big question. Shut up.
Remember last year, he got better as the year went on. So it'll be really interesting with him being so good right now, what he will do as the season goes on, July, August, right? And so it could be up and to the right for Jo Adell. And if it is, I'll continue to eat crow. I've had crow. It tastes like an ostrich burger.
Where did you have crow? What the heck? Anyway, Jo Adell also, when's the last time we talked about his defense? And we haven't.
That's true.
And so I feel like they're sticking with him in center field. They're letting it work out. It's how it started in right field last year, Mike. He wasn't great out there. And then he ends up being a Gold Glove candidate with some of the top defensive run save stats for right fielders last year. So perhaps his defense in center field will continue to improve because, again, when you're not talking about Jo Adell's defense, that's good news. No news is good news.
Yeah. You know, ostrich is leaner, but you eat more of it. Takeaway number 4, Kikuchi was really dominant yesterday, John. He was able to recover from that really bad first inning. Wasn't his fault, right? It was his defense, and then the ump decided to go into business for himself. Ended up going 7 strong innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, both unearned. Just 1 walk. That's huge. We'll talk about that in the next segment. And this is also pretty big. 12 strikeouts. And we'll give some explanation as to why that's really big. John lowered his ERA to 2.79, 8th best in the American League. This is from Matt Birch, Angels communication manager. Yusei Kikuchi has now recorded 9+ strikeouts in 3 consecutive starts. Only other Angels pitchers in the last 30 years to do that, John Lackey and Shohei Ohtani. John, 37% whiff rate. 39% called strikes plus whiff rate, 18 called strikes plus whiffs on just the slider. This guy was really, really good. And we were reminded yesterday that he was the guy when the Angels signed him. He said, they've been in the playoffs in a long time and I want to help him get there. Well, he's helping him get there, John, and he's continuing to get better. He's continuing to tweak some things. And that's what segment 2 is going to be all about.
Yeah, takeaway number 5, our final takeaway. The Angels sweep the Red Sox. They get back to 500. Mike, the Angels are 40-40. The halfway point of the season is on Friday because it's the 81st game, and they're back to 500 for the first time since being 25-25 on May 23rd. That was when they came home and had won against the Marlins, and then they proceeded to drop a bunch in a row. They never got back to 500. And so they're 6.5 games back as of this recording. Now, I know the Mariners lost yesterday, still as of this recording, waiting on the results between the Phillies and the Astros, but they're 2 games back of a wild card spot. And Gubaza mentioned it on the broadcast, how they leapfrogged a ton of teams to get to that spot in the wild card spot. You know, just a week ago, Boston had sole possession of the 3rd wild card spot. And it was kind of funny because it was the Rays, the Blue Jays, and the Red Sox all having the AL wild card spots. So my question for you, and I'm going to open this up to our everydayers, how are we feeling about this team? What's your pulse? Do they try to contend? Does that involve any moves? Are they still selling at the deadline? Are they better, worse, or are they exactly a 500 team? Are they going 81-81 this season? So comment below on YouTube, send us a DM at Super Halo Bros on Instagram or Twitter. Send any other questions you have for us because We're going to be doing Fan Mail Friday because of the day off today. Mike, real quick, what's your pulse on this team right now?
I said in the offseason that I think that at best they're a 500 team. And so they're playing like a 500 team. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, John. And here's why. You and I have talked about a narrative shifting season. Yusei Kikuchi came here to help this team win, but other people don't want to come here. That's the reputation of the Angels. However, they finish 81-81. I think people go, maybe I can push them over the edge. Maybe I can help them take the next step, right? Now, if they finish with an even better record, gosh, I think that draws a lot of attention. And here's why. Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, Nolan Shawnuel, a returning Ben Joyce, a hot Jo Adell, right? Like, I mean, they just have a lot of key pieces. And then they have a Jose Soriano, who's going on Friday. They have Jack Konowitz, who is working some things out, but then they have Dana and Clausen and Altaguiri. I mean, Sam Bachman's looking good, right? Reid Detmers, I think, has found his groove. We'll talk about him in segment 3. John, there's a lot of eyes that I think will be on this team in the offseason, depending on what they do. Now, will I be excited about them perhaps making a push to the playoffs? Yeah. I just don't want them to sell pieces that are future pieces. Now, a lot of our everydayers have said, do what the Tigers did. You have them trade this and have them trade that. Let's just be really honest. The Tigers got lucky. they got lucky and they got hot at the same time. And making the trade with Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers and getting some pieces back was great. But then they also did have other strong arms and other good bats, and they just got really hot. Now, if the Angels do that, which is probably the best way to go, they trade away, for example, like Taylor Ward, right? And they get some younger arms or some younger players, and then they have Matthew Lugo end up taking left field. I don't think that absolutely destroys this team. I think the team can still be consistent and play well because they're not relying upon Taylor Ward. You know who they're relying upon? All of the young guys that they're trying to build this team around. John, if they traded Mike Trout, I don't think that would undermine this team because they're not relying upon Mike Trout, right? I don't know what he does in the locker room. Maybe he's got a pulse on this team and is kind of a fire starter in the clubhouse as a veteran. But if they trade away a couple of veteran pieces, I don't think it undermines this team. I think the Angels could get lucky, like the Tigers got lucky last year, if they continue to play as consistent as they've been playing. And I'm wondering also the dynamic with Ray Montgomery versus Ron Washington and how that's playing into what we're doing right now. I'd love to have more of a sample size, but I think that dynamic is interesting. And if Wash comes back, how do things shift back, or do they continue to move forward? Those are the questions that I have about this team.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out because it feels like, they could go on a run, but in the very same breath, you could be like, or everything could just fall apart and they could be really awful. And that's just who they've been. And it's not a knock on them or anything like that, but it's just everything goes right at the same time. Everything goes wrong at the same time. It never feels like, oh, that's fine. Like, 2 out of 3 or they salvaged the series. They lost 2, but they finished with the win on Sunday. That's all well and good. But it never feels like that. It feels like really all or nothing with this team. So it's going to be interesting to watch how the rest of this season plays out. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we'll take a deeper look at what Kikuchi is doing on the mound to be as effective as he has been recently. We'll share what he's doing, and we'll share that coming right up.
Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for skilled trades. It's supplyhouse.com. Whether it's plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. They have an easy-to-use website packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. And they have a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. You're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You're always going to talk to a real person. And if you're a trade pro looking for a bit of an extra edge, they have a free Trade Master program, offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and it's your turn. So go to supplyhouse.com/TM to join their Trade Master program, or you can start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies in just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. When you do, use our promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Again, that's supplyhouse.com.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now, you may have noticed something different about Yusei Kikuchi yesterday compared to what he looked like at the start of the year. What was different? His arm angle. Over his career, his arm angle has been around 42 degrees. With the Blue Jays, it was 44 degrees, and then last year, it was at 38 degrees with the Astros. We all know that's when he had the most success, probably in his career, was when he was traded to the Astros as they made their playoff push. I remember seeing that trade and going, you did what? What are you guys, Kikuchi? Really? Yeah. And then they turned him into a stud, Mike. And so that is a lot of credit to the front office there and the coaches there, because they saw something and went, we can fix that. And I love when that happens in baseball. I know it's the Astros. I hate the Astros, but does anybody, like, you know how you have your favorite teams? Like, for me, I know the Nationals are coming to town this weekend, but I'm like, that's a fun team. I want to see them do well. Like, I want to see them succeed. Does anybody feel that way about the Astros if they're a fan of another team?
I certainly don't.
That's a sidebar. Maybe a conversation for another time. This year, as an Angel, Yusei Kikuchi's average arm angle is at 34 degrees. He started the season with an arm angle around 34, but he moved it back to around 38 like he had in Houston in the last couple of starts. He said, I started throwing the backdoor slider more with Houston, and when you throw backdoor sliders, naturally your arm slot goes down. So if you're wondering what that is, it's essentially the other side of the plate, especially to, like, because he's a lefty, right-handers, the batter's box, or I'm sorry, the strike zone. Gosh, hi, I'm new. The strike zone, the far side of it, that's, on the left side of the plate, that's backdoor, right? And so backdoor slider means that he's touching that outer part of the zone that's furthest away from the right-handed hitter. So why does the arm slot matter, Michael?
Well, a recent study found that lowering a pitcher's arm slot actually helps reduce the risk of arm injuries because it's less stressful on the elbow and the shoulder. Now, Kikuchi said he hasn't felt any difference in the level of soreness after starts since lowering his arm slot. But another reason why the arm angle and arm slot matters is that Kikuchi can get more horizontal movement on his pitches. So from last season to this season, Kikuchi's fastball has gone from 7.9 inches of horizontal movement to 10.5 inches of horizontal movement. And then his curveball has gone from 4.9 inches to 5.7 inches, and it's changed from 12.7 to 13.9.
Talk about being Rugiet ready. Let's go. The lowered arm slot has been working for Kikuchi. He's got a 2.89 ERA since the trade to the Astros. So far, entering yesterday, Kikuchi has a 3.01 ERA in 16 starts, lowered that to 2.79. So the Angels are really hoping that new arm angle will allow Kikuchi to cut down traffic on the bases. So his walks and hits per innings pitched was the third highest in the big leagues at 1.428. And a big contributor to all those base runners has been the walks that he's given up. He has led all of baseball with 43 walks allowed, and he's got an 11.2% walk rate in his season, and the second highest mark of his career. That was the fourth highest in baseball. Now he's throwing the ball in the zone more often than he has been over his career. He's throwing in the strike zone 52.9% of the time. So what's making him walk all these batters? Well, it's because the hitters hadn't been chasing out of the zone. And so they're chasing just 24.4% of the time. That's a career low and 4% lower than league average. And so the goal here is that the new arm angle and the movement causes batters to chase a bit more. Kikuchi said, I think I might have been trying to be a little fine with my pitches. The new arm slot gives him more control and he doesn't have to overthrow and be too fine. Now, having said all that, I know that was a lot of information, but the fact is there's a couple takeaways there. He's hitting the strike zone and people weren't chasing. But now he's got this horizontal movement that has improved across all of his pitches. Mike, I got to say, that's a big reason why, number one, he only gave up one walk, because number two, guys were chasing and taking 12 strikeouts yesterday, right?
Yeah. And something that was tweeted at us just the other day was, what does Barry Enright do? And you tweeted a graphic about Reid Detmers, and you said this. And so I just want to say that again, but in regards to Yusei Kikuchi. What does Barry Enright do? This, what we just talked about, and what we saw yesterday. We saw Yusei Kikuchi getting a lot of swings and misses. We saw a lot of bite on his slider, and he wasn't overthrowing it, John. And we saw a lot of guys chasing, and they weren't doing that earlier this year. So changing the arm slot, the arm angle, allows him to have a bit more of a bite on his off-speed pitches. It also allows him to throw that fastball a little bit harder. John, he hit 97 yesterday, and there was a couple of balls that should have been strikes, but they were fastballs in the zone, and again, called balls, not strikes. But then when he threw his slider, they were chasing. He threw his curve, they were chasing. And that all comes back to Yusei lowering his arm a bit, having a different arm slot, and not having to overthrow, not having to overdo it. Jose Soriano had the same struggle. He was overthrowing his pitches, trying to make them way too good. And that's the thing that Barry has been preaching to these guys, specifically to Kikuchi. You have good stuff. You don't need to overthrow it. You don't need to overdo it. You're really good at what you do, and you have a really good off-speed pitch in this slider. So throw it from this angle, and batters are going to chase it.
If that's the messaging from the majors all the way down, then I think that's fantastic, because we talked to Chris Cortez last week, and that was something that he had to say was, I'm just trying to do too much. And if I just let my body do its thing when I'm throwing my pitches and don't overthink it, don't overdo it, and don't overthrow it, that's when I have a lot more control. That's when my sinker is at its best. And so he thinks he's going to be able to clean up the walks as the season continues for him in High A in Tri-City. And it makes a lot of sense here too, Mike, that when you just kind of let your body naturally throw that pitch, naturally do its thing, you're going to get the results that you're naturally built for. You know, one of my favorite pitches, and Detmers has done this in the past, and he did it to, I think it was Cedric Mullins last year, the year before. It was a curveball that was like up at Mullins's eyes, right? And then all of a sudden it drops into the strike zone.
Yeah.
Kikuchi had something like that yesterday, and everything to do with that horizontal movement. I know a curveball goes vertically down, but that side-to-side horizontal movement where it starts in the left-handed batter's box and then ends up in the strike zone right in front of your hands where you can't do anything about it. Kikuchi has been really effective. He had some of those kinds of pitches yesterday as well. So again, love this guy. Again, you mentioned it, Mike, when he got signed, he said, Angels haven't made the playoffs in 10 years. I want to be part of what helps get them back there. And so to have him for this year and 2 more years, I think it's fantastic. I know there was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of questions of whether he would be able to continue his Astros performance. Well, the best that they could do is maintain what he was able to do for the Astros. But now you look at his last 3 starts. Remember, he matched 9+ strikeouts 3 times in a row with Shohei Ohtani and with John Lackey. You heard of them, and now you're going to have to put Yusei Kikuchi in that same breath. So again, he might have surpassed what he was doing well last season, and I really hope that that continues as this season progresses.
Summer is here, and whether you're into baseball, under the lights, or golf on the green, or maybe high-stakes soccer, FanDuel is the best way to get in on all of the action. If you're already following the action, make it a little bit more thrilling with FanDuel. You can get in on a game while your friends are maybe getting sunburned at the beach. You're going to win some money while they have to put on some aloe vera, right? And I've been using FanDuel to track some of my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's so easy to use, fast payouts, and it makes regular season games in the middle of the dog days of summer feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or I'm wanting to bet on a player that is going to do something in the ninth inning that I just have a feeling about, FanDuel allows me to do that. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the app today or go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Mike, let's talk about the Detmers difference. The difference is Detmers. It sounds like a slogan for like Clearasil or something like that.
Now, you have not ever given up on Jo Adell. I'd like to go on record and say that I've never given up on Reid Detmers. I've been frustrated with Reid Detmers.
Yeah, you have.
Been frustrated with Reid Detmers. I want this guy to get it, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I want him to get it, because of what he's been doing, John.
Right.
He's been incredible in his last 15 games, hasn't he?
Yeah, 2-0 with a 0 ERA. Now, we did give up a run 2 nights ago, but that was the Manfred Man ghost runner, automatic runner. Let that one come in, but that really is kind of the only blip on the radar, and that wasn't even a blip that counts against his ERA because those are unearned runs against a pitcher. But listen to this: 2 saves in 14 2/3 innings, just 7 hits, 8 walks. That's huge. 24 strikeouts. That's a 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio right there, Mike. And then a 1.02 whip. Remember, one of the biggest struggles was Reid Detmers has the stuff, but he's never been able to put it together. He would often get ahead, 0-2. Suddenly it's 3-2. Suddenly he's got traffic on the bases. A 1.02 whip, walks and hits per innings pitched. That is a huge difference, Mike. So what changed with your guy, Reid Detmers?
According to Reid, he said, I go out there and attack. He said that's the game plan, never to give in to opponents. And then he also said, I just don't want to give him a chance to breathe. I don't want him to give a chance to blink. He said, I'm just going out there with confidence, trying to keep things rolling. That's really my only mindset, to go out there and have fun. And then I think this is so important, John, just go all out. And what we saw from Reid Detmers in the starting rotation to what we see in the bullpen, I think is a different guy because he's going all out. I don't think he's trying to save himself. I think he's trying to throw his best pitch and throw it in the best way. And so that's where I think the bullpen has been a great benefit to Reid Detmers. Now, he was asked why he struggled early on, and he said, I just needed some time in the bullpen. He said, I needed about a month to kind of adapt to the relief role because it's a whole mind shift for him. He said it was new, and he had to learn a new way to approach throwing his pitches.
Can I make a comment on that? You know, there were 3 games in a row where he got, 1 out across 3 outings.
Yeah, lots of runs. Yeah.
And it was frustrating because it was Ron Washington putting him in that situation. You and I were frustrated with Reid Detmers, but we were frustrated with Ron Washington.
Yeah.
The fact is, a guy probably does need a month to adjust, but he was getting put in these high leverage situations that he shouldn't have been in. Now, I understand they were trying to get him to click, and they were hoping that Detmers would get to where he is now by putting him in those situations, but you gave away the game, right? You gave those games away. You didn't need to do that. You didn't have to do that. And so, those are in the past, and Detmers is killing it right now. But the fact is, you put this guy in situations where you're like, man, if it's like baptism by fire, right? Trial by fire. And that's what they were doing to Detmers here. So that's where the frustration comes from, because again, it was Wash putting him in those situations and Reid not being able to perform and not being able to come through in those moments because he needed the time to adjust.
And that's why sometimes this team can be just so frustrating, and the philosophy of this team can be so frustrating because, that's what they're doing to O'Hoppe behind the plate.
Yeah,
right? I mean, I love that Darno was in there, and I love that he came through, and I'm a fan of Travis Darno. I will take him 100 times over a backup like Matt Theis. Like I'm just so glad that d'Arnaud is here because he's great offensively, defensively, great backup. However, they're not putting Ohapi in there as often because he is struggling on defense. Well, if you're going to put Reid Detmers in a high leverage situation, then stick our boy Logan Ohapi back in there on a regular basis so that he can learn and grow and get better. And I know it was Kikuchi, and I know that they have this rapport, him and Travis do. So Logan's got to play every single game this weekend, right? I think he's got to be in there every single game. And I know Sundays usually is a day off and they're going to bring somebody else in, but Kahanowitz pitches Sunday. And I would rather see Jack Kahanowitz have Logan Ohapi back there than Travis d'Arnaud to get a bigger sample size. But that's why this philosophy and the strategy on this team can be frustrating sometimes. I want it to be specific to the player, but if you're going to put somebody like Reid Detmers in a high leverage situation, then I think it's fair to say, if we're going to try it that way with this guy, let's try it that way with a few other guys who have proven themselves. Reid at the time hadn't proved himself. Now, Reid has figured some things out, and he said, I just needed some time to figure some things out. John, I really think that the best move for Reid is to stay in the bullpen for the rest of the year. I don't think you want to mess with that. I don't think you want to stretch him out unless it's like an emergency and you absolutely have to.
Sure.
But I think what you've seen in this guy is someone who recognizes now how strong his pitches are. And I think you might throw him off by moving him back into the starting rotation. What do you do in the offseason? And what do you do at the beginning of spring training next year and for the season? I think that has to be a TBA. I don't think that you need to have a strategy right now for that because you're 40-40. You have this guy at the back end of your bullpen. Potentially Robert Stevenson could return. He's feeling better. You got Detmers, Stevenson, and you've got Zephyr John and Kenley Jansen back there. And isn't it true, John, that teams need good bullpens as they make a run? And if they get to the playoffs, you need good bullpens in the playoffs.
Bachman is available as well.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got all these guys. You may not need to make some big trades for the bullpen. Maybe you just facilitate some additional pieces of veteran arms that you can bring in and then just kind of slot them in. I just think that it would be a wise decision to keep him there all season long because I think it's going to only help him to be a better pitcher in the long term.
We've been talking about, you've been sticking by Detmers. I've been sticking by Jo Adell. And one of the big knocks against Jo Adell was always like, well, he's been here 4 years. How much time does he need? And I kept pushing back with, he's had 4 seasons in the bigs, but how many plate appearances has he had? Less than 1 season's worth of plate appearances in the major leagues across 4 years. I say that because I think it would be wise to let Detmers play with this attack mindset for the rest of the year. And next year, you have a conversation and maybe even a plan to say, all right, dude, you're back in the rotation. We want you there. We need you there. But you have to be able to take that attack mode into starting. You have to be able to take what you learned all season in the bullpen and make it happen when you're on the mound as a starter. So I'm with you. I think if he finishes out this year as a relief pitcher, and Mike, maybe they do deal Kenley Jansen, but then you have some other arms to go to, including Reid Detmers to get you a save or shut down an inning or what have you. That's going to do nothing but build up his confidence. And that has been the issue for Reid Detmers for the last 5 years. And we're finally seeing him turn a corner on that. Attack, to me, says confidence, confidence, confidence.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day and the #1 Angels podcast out there. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. And you can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels. Connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Hey, we want you to reach out to us, whether you're in the comments section on YouTube. We put a story up on our Instagram on Super Halo Bros because, Mike, what do we have for tomorrow?
It's Fan Mail Friday, and so we would love to hear from you, your thoughts on this team. What would you do? I know you've already shared some really good thoughts with us. Share them again or share them for the first time. We would love to hear from you as well. There's a voicemail line that you can call. The number is in the episode description. It's Fan Mail Friday tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Trying to see if I can get the busiest man in podcasting, Gavin Carlson, the host of Locked On Angels Postcast, to join us for that Fan Mail Friday. It sounds like he's interested, but just got to check the sketch. He's busy. He's young. He's hip. He's probably got, tons going on, but we'll see if he can join us as well, because that would be a lot of fun. And I know everybody's been asking for it too, so we can finally all get together on a show. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Friday.
Do some sweeping.
Sweep! Another one for the good guys.